Around the world, there are many countries that have hostile relations with other countries. This may be due to historical conflicts, border disputes, political differences, and sometimes even purely through sporting rivalry. Whether people from one country have a favourable view of people from another country often depends on government decisions, which are beyond the control of ordinary citizens. By this, I mean if a government decides to invade or bomb another country, it's not the ordinary everyday working people who are to blame, it is those in charge. So what are the biggest country rivalries? Why are they rivals in the first place, and what do they think of each other? Let's travel around the world and take a look. So let's start off with one of the biggest country rivalries on the planet, India and Pakistan. The strained relationship between the two stems from several issues. Perhaps the most significant is the ongoing dispute over Kashmir, a region both countries claim. The disagreement began with the partition of British India in 1947, when Kashmir's ruler chose to join India, leading to immediate conflict with Pakistan. This has resulted in several wars and continuous tension. What makes this dispute quite terrifying is that both of these countries have nuclear weapons. So what if one country decided to completely take over the region of Kashmir? What if tensions rose so high that all-out nuclear war were to happen? The two countries are also sworn enemies when it comes to sport, well, cricket specifically. They are both cricket-mad countries. The two combined have a population of around 1.55 billion, so when the two play each other, it's watched by quite literally hundreds of millions of people. India is so cricket-mad that it built a stadium to house 132,000 people, the largest by capacity on Earth. Israel and Iran are another country pairing that really don't like one another. I always find it quite crazy how small Israel is on a world map compared to the countries that it has hostile relations with. The country is 75 times smaller than Iran and nearly 100 times smaller than Saudi Arabia. Yet in terms of military power, it is still able to keep up with these countries. The two countries don't really get along, mainly because of their different political and religious views. Iran is a Shia Muslim country that opposes Israel and supports groups that fight against it, like Hezbollah and Hamas. Iran's leaders often criticize Israel and vice versa, and this fuels the conflict more. Israel sees Iran's support for these external groups and its efforts to develop nuclear weapons as serious threats. This mutual distrust and disagreement over regional issues keep their relationship very tense. At the time of making this video, their relations are at an all-time low. All-out war between the two is a serious possibility. Next up, we have my own country of England, and oh boy, it's fair to say there's a fair few countries who have a, let's say, unfavourable view of the English. One of those countries could be France. The two have had many wars over the last millennia, such as the 100 Years' War, which lasted 116 years. And then we had the Napoleonic Wars in the early 1800s, which involved a series of wars involving Napoleon's France against Britain and its allies. Although today England/the UK are allies with the French, there is still a bit of a sour taste between the two. The two countries are also huge rivals when it comes to sport like rugby and football. But it's not just the French who have a bit of a dislike towards the English. In fact, the rest of the countries who make up the United Kingdom, as well as the Republic of Ireland, tend to have a bit of a sour-tasting relationship with the English. It's fair to say that the Welsh, Irish, Scots and the nationalists of Northern Ireland don't have a particularly great view of the English. This mainly stems from historical conflicts, political disagreements, and cultural tensions related to British rule and national identity. There is also a huge sporting rivalry between the countries. To be fair, however, most of this supposed hate is just generally banter and internet tribal hearsay. In general, the people of these countries do get along in real-life situations. Two countries that have a long-lasting tense relationship are the US and Russia, or what was once the USSR. Tensions between the two have been high since the early 20th century, when they both competed to essentially be the global superpower. The Soviet Union posed a real threat to the almighty US. The Union engulfed so many countries, people, and land. At its peak, it ruled some 22.5 million kilometers squared, more than double the size of the United States. What's kind of crazy, however, is that the two were once allies. In World War II, the countries cooperated together in order to defeat the Axis powers. But as soon as World War II ended, that partnership fell through. Both countries wanted to be the most powerful and dominant on Earth. This tension and distrust is what triggered the Cold War, which lasted some 44 years. Although the Cold War essentially ended in 1991 along with the USSR, tensions are still extremely high between the two. Relations are close to an all-time low, and nuclear war is still always a potential. The US's strong support for Ukraine has further inflamed Russia, resulting in tensions as severe as those seen at the height of the Cold War. Now, a country that has a very interesting relationship with the US is Vietnam, a country which was absolutely decimated by the Americans. So you'd probably think that the Vietnamese would hold a grudge against the American people. However, this isn't the case at all. The Vietnamese actually hold very favourable views of the US, even though just 50 years ago up to 3 million Vietnamese were killed in a very ugly war. When it comes to choosing whether you're on Team US or China, the people of Vietnam are heavily in favour of the Americans. Only the Filipinos scored higher within the ASEAN region. Around the world, it's fair to say that most people view the Japanese in a very positive way. They are known to be very polite and respectful people. The country sees pretty high living standards, low crime rates, and has many interesting unspoken rules that make the country a very decent place to live. Overall, since World War II, it has been a largely peaceful nation. However, during World War II, Japan was a completely different animal. The country invaded China and committed many atrocities, meaning a lot of people in China still hold a grudge against the Japanese. The two countries have also competed for regional power, especially in the last couple of decades where China's power has grown significantly. Two countries that have a more light-hearted rivalry are Brazil and Argentina. But this time it's nothing to do with war, conflict, or political fallout, but purely sport. Kind of like India and Pakistan with cricket, these two neighbouring countries are football mad, and often compete for the title of the best football team in the continent / the world. Both countries are relative powerhouses on the continent, albeit Brazil being much larger in terms of economy, size, and population. Generally speaking, the countries actually have a pretty positive relationship with one another. Their hateful rivalry is purely a sporting one. Morocco and Algeria are another country pairing with a frosty relationship. Their disputes mainly stem from historical conflicts and territorial disagreements, with the main dispute being that of the Western Sahara region, where Morocco claims sovereignty while Algeria supports the independence movement. This dispute has led to strained relations and diplomatic tensions. The two countries also compete for regional power and influence in North Africa, further contributing to their rivalry. North and South Korea are two of the most volatile countries in the world when it comes to relations with each other. The two are technically still at war, as no treaty to end the Korean War was ever officially signed. The two countries couldn't be any more different. South Korea is a relatively wealthy, technologically advanced country that has strong ties with the West and NATO. Whereas North Korea is unbelievably corrupt, poor, and is a sworn enemy of the countries deemed as the West. Although South Korea is far more technologically and financially advanced than its northern counterpart, North Korea has nuclear weapons and the largest army on Earth by personnel. The two are split by one of the most notorious borders on Earth, and unification looks less and less likely by the day. So there we have it, some interesting country rivalries from around the world. If you can think of any others, please do drop them in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and as always, thank you very much for watching.